every business, and including mine, we all took a hit. I couldn't get on an airplane and go do VIP days. Not that my business is all VIP days, but there was a period of time I couldn't get on an airplane. Regardless of what people think about it, people are out there, they get upset their airlines were requiring masks or whatever. Well, if you choose to fly, no, that's your choice. You have to choose to do business by the way that they are saying you have to do business. And so regardless of what you believe about it, regardless of whatever I believe about it is I have to say, am I going to choose to do business? That didn't happen to me, it happened around me. Now when I have the perspective that this is happening for me, I can also then say,
what is up, passion seekers? I'm super excited. So we're at episode 2. I have someone here. His wife is on my real estate team. I got to know him. He started Membership Multipliers, written 2 books, coaches, and helps scale businesses, their members, and all that stuff. So this is going to be a lot of great information, a lot of good stuff. So welcome, Scott Whitaker.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited. We were actually just kind of talking a little bit before the podcast and, talking about passion seekers, what's this going to be and all this stuff. But before we get into the nitty gritty of business, let's talk about you for a little bit. And where did it all start? Let's put it that way.
The true story is I started out as a pastor of churches.
Okay.
So started out as a youth minister and then...
Bless your heart.
Yep. Worked with students for a while, and then through a series of events, ended up pastoring a church.
Okay.
And then I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and a mentor of mine pulled me aside one day and said, I think you ought to consider starting a church. And so we pursued starting a church, made sure it was the right thing that we were supposed to be doing, and then eventually started a church from scratch, grew it from 0, just my family and I, to over 200 people on our grand opening Sunday.
That grand opening.
Yeah.
200. Wow. That's pretty incredible. So you said entrepreneur spirit, and that's one of the reasons why Passion Seekers offers a lot of different things. But like me personally, I was working a 9 to 5 and, I was fighting the entrepreneur spirit. How did you know that you had the entrepreneur spirit?
Part of it is knowing that you like to start things.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
I left the story at that, we started a church from scratch. But then during that time, I met somebody who was coaching pastors of churches. And so he and I struck up a friendship. I was actually part of his coaching network. And he and I struck up a friendship. And then I eventually left the church I started and went to go and grow that organization. And so I grew it from 72 members to over 3,000 members.
Wow.
In a 9-year period, did that. And then again, it's like, okay, I tell people it was like, I was like Seinfeld. So I'm dating myself a little bit here, but if you ever watch Seinfeld, like Seinfeld left when he was on top.
Yeah.
He had the, best performing sitcom and then number 1 in all the ratings and everything. And then all of a sudden stopped. And so, I tell people I was kind of like Seinfeld. I was on top and decided to leave. I decided that, again, the entrepreneur spirit of starting things, let's go start something from scratch. And so now what I do is I look for other thought leaders, coaches, consultants who are looking to really create, launch, and scale a high-ticket membership offer. And I partner with them in helping them do that. So I help them create that. And so with each one of those is a new opportunity for me. So I still am able to maintain my entrepreneurial spirit because every new client that is looking to, whether it's create, launch, and or scale their high ticket offer, I'm getting involved in their business and helping them do that. And new businesses, new opportunities.
I will say that is really creative. Creating a business to feed your own desire. It's like one of those things. Like I heard it in high school all the time. It's like, a guy that dates around just likes the chase. And then once he dates and it's like, okay, well, whatever, we're settled, yada, yada. And then it feels like he's not chasing after anything. So you've built a business basically after you knew you had that entrepreneur desire to start something, see it expand, and then chase after it.
There's some modus operandi that I have. And that is that, too many business owners are a slave to their business. Why not build the business that you desire to have? So I do business on my terms.
Yeah.
I can choose to do business on their terms, but it's my choice. So literally just before we started the podcast, I was telling my wife that there was a salesperson I'm working with right now who refuses to email me. So I'm like, please email me the price. And I'm like, oh, hey, it'd be great if I could, if we could have this conversation via text. I'm like, I don't need to have this conversation via text message. We have each other's emails.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't rude to the guy, but literally after a series of 5 emails where he's continually asking me for my phone number, which I know why he wants my phone number. He wants to call me.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, and I told him, I'm like, I'm working with 5 other vendors that I'm considering for this, and I don't want them calling and blowing up my phone and blowing up my text message. So I'm doing all the business via email. So I very politely said to him, if you choose not to do business via email, that's fine. I will take my attention and divert it elsewhere. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to give in.
Yeah.
So I choose to do business on my terms. And it's both in how I do business, but then in my business as well. And now there's limitations to it.
Yeah.
Like, my business could be much bigger, granted. If I was choosing to do messaging through Facebook, for example, direct messages, I don't do it because I'm not on Facebook much. I don't want to give the appearance of working all hours of the night and everything else, because I don't. Yeah. And quite honestly, the people that I'm looking to target, they're producers of social media. They're not consumers of social media necessarily. And so, like, I'm just going to not do business the way that some people teach, because that's not who I am, or not how I desire to do business.
Yeah. And I think honestly, like, the adverse effect or the other perspective. So in real estate, if I was just to bend at every beck and call, then my clients would just think that they can call me at 1 a.m. If I set those clear boundaries and I get to choose when I work, how I work, and all that stuff. Obviously, if a client calls me and says like, hey, I'm fixing to lose this deal, yada, there's that exception. But I think it adds another level of respect. Like, you're going to respect an agent that sets those boundaries rather than just bends at your beck and call. I feel like, and I've seen that with other sales agents as well, being the consumer, and the sales is like, hey, listen, I get off at 5 o'clock to spend time with my family. If you need anything important, shoot me a text, shoot me an email. If it's an emergency, give me a call and I will answer it. That to me speaks volumes. I was like, oh, wow, this dude's, knows his stuff.
I learned it from one of my mentors. Believe it or not, he doesn't have email. And the only way to communicate with him is, he's older, is by fax. So you literally have to send him a fax message.
Not going to lie, I would not know how to contact him.
Yeah. Well, you go to the local UPS store and say, hey, can you send a fax for me?
Like, how do I use this thing?
So that is a very strict. Now, his name's Dan Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
To hear him talk about it, though, there's psychology behind it. Like, if somebody's just going to send me a text message, like, there's no thought behind it.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to sit down, and by the way, that's becoming true even more with email. Yeah. People don't think through their emails. But, like, if I'm going to sit down and send him a fax, like, I have to think about it. I have to craft my wording. I have to know, like, once it's done, and then fax it. And so there's more effort that goes into it, but there's more thought process behind it too. So it creates better business relationships. So that's for him, not for me. But I have different modalities that people can communicate with me. Some of my clients will have my cell phone. Some of them will use an app called Voxer. Some of them will use an app called Slack. But everybody has access to email. And, we communicate through those different modalities. But I'm setting it up on my terms.
Yeah. Which I do love that, because, I'm all about psychology. Life is psychology. Like, my wife, Anna, she has a saying, like, everything's a little bit deeper than it actually is. And there's always, everything's either driven by your confidence, your insecurities, like the inner you that people don't see. Like, that's psychology behind closed doors. And it goes down to sales as well. Like, or in just everyday conversation. Like, it's, there's some things like, don't overthink it, obviously. But when it comes down to certain things, like, why is someone doing that? Like, that's my favorite thing, is that why question.
So you talk about the psychology side behind it. Some people listen to this might think, well, I can't do that. I might lose a sale. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I have an abundance mindset. Number one, if they're not willing to do business on my terms, again, I'm fine. I'll find somebody who will.
Yeah.
So you got to be okay with losing a sale. My pricing is high, so I was on a sales call the other day where I was offering my service. They had reached out to me, said, hey, can we jump on a call thinking about one of the things I do is a VIP day where I fly out to people and spend the day with them and, go to work on their business and create a blueprint for their business, basically. And he said, hey, listen, I'm interested in learning more about VIP day. Want to make sure it's right. Can we jump on a Zoom call? I'm like, yeah, sure. So we jumped on a Zoom call and, we talked about his business and everything else. And so finally he was like, okay, well, what's the investment? I told him the investment, how much it was. He said, well, honestly, that's more than what I was thinking it would be. I said, okay, I understand it's not for everyone. I didn't come back and say, well, would you be willing to do it for this amount? Or what if I did this? I didn't have it with him.
Yeah.
Because number one, if I'm going to go on a plane and go somewhere and be gone for essentially 3 days, I got to set amount that's going to be worth. And I'm not going to do it because I can do other things with my time during those 3 days that will produce just as much, if not more, revenue than that VIP day. So no, I'm good. So there was no haggling. He respected it. I respected him for it. And it was no, diss on him. The value proposition for him wasn't there. Maybe, it didn't come across or whatever, but it was more than what he was willing to invest in. So we just, we're good friends. I'll help him out when I see him and all that, but I wasn't going to haggle with it.
I've done that with real estate and other sales and with my DJ company as well. It's, this is my price and this is what it is. If you don't want to spend that, that's fine. But if I'm discounting or dropping my price, I'm doing you a disservice because I'm not going to feel, the motivation will probably lack there. The other aspect is, what am I saying to all my other clients that paid me full price?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I mean, and again, I liken it to that like, hey, listen, out of integrity, I can't do this for you and not for them because I have others who've, made that investment. I've got others on my books right now that have made that investment. I can't go back to them and make that discount to them. That's not right. That's not fair. So I'm not going to discount it. But it does, again, to have that modus operandi, which everybody should have. You get to decide what it is. So you get to decide how you're going to operate, how you're going to do business, and with whom you're going to do business. And once you do that, then it requires an abundance mindset. Like there are a number of people out there who need, want, desire that service. And it's my responsibility to go out there and make my services known so that they can see how their need, wants, and desires will be fulfilled.
Which I love the abundance mindset because I don't know if y'all have heard this a lot, but I definitely have. I feel like the world tries to keep you, you in that form. And we kind of talked about it. It's, a lot of people, I think a majority of people live with a closed fist. They're just trying to hold on to anything thinking, that life is just what's given to you. And I think life is what you make it. It's all about your perspective and how you view things. And, one of the things Myron Goldman says a lot, he talked about a pie. And he was like, it's almost as majority of Americans are fighting over a pie that's only 8 pieces. And it's like, if I take an entire piece, which is in the pies resembling wealth or riches in this case, if I take that whole piece, well, then I'm the bad guy because I just took it from everybody else. What people are not realizing in the abundance mindset is when you look from a further perspective, you're standing in the kitchen with all the ingredients.
Yeah.
And that is a perspective. Because I lived with my closed fist. Like in the 9 to 5, I was like, all right, this is just what I do. I go to work. I can't wait for Friday evening.
Yeah.
Have the weekend, repeat. And hopefully one day I win the lottery. And then I went to ClickFunnels, Funnel Hacking Live. And I couldn't afford to go. So I worked it. And God, it was so eye-opening because people lining up for, the 1 comma club, 2 comma club, which that is, your first million, your second, the 2 comma clubs, like your, what is it?
It's $1 million business.
$1 million. I was like, okay, these are a lot of people. Like, and obviously there's discrepancy there that we take into account. But I was like, my goals are so small. Like I felt ashamed. Like if someone was to walk up to me and like, what's your goal? I'd be like, I don't want to tell you. Cause like their goals were so high. And I was like, and that's when I realized like I was living at that time. I didn't realize the analogy, but I was living with the closed fist. And I'm like, no, like the saying money grows on trees. that's used is more of like, you know, when you're asking for something, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. But the perspective, and I hope this is not taken out of context, but like the perspective, I'm like, it kind of does. Like there's a billion people in this world.
If it's not on the tree you're looking at, go find a different tree. I mean, so there's a lot there. You know, having the abundance mindset, closed fist. You know, there's just so much more to be enjoyed with an open hand.
Yeah.
Like a closed fist can't enjoy anything else other than what's inside the fist. I can take hold of a number of things and practice that open-handedness. The illustration that you mentioned about with Myron Golden and the pie, I like to even think about it like, yeah, you're in the kitchen, but if you step out even further, like there's pies all around.
Yeah.
The common theme in all of those stories of what you were just sharing is ultimately you got to take personal responsibility. Every single one of us ultimately are responsible for our own well-being. Now, nothing against anybody who lives, you know, who works 9 to 5 and is an employee. But there is a segment of employees who have the expectation that the business owner is to provide for them.
Oh, that's good.
And that's not true.
Yeah.
I'm not ultimately responsible for your well-being. I'm responsible for, I don't like the, you know, paying fair wage language, because fairness is not something that is agreed upon necessarily. But I am responsible to my business to pay you in direct correlation for the value you provide.
And what you committed.
And what I committed, but what I committed to pay you is in direct correlation to the value you provide. You can choose to increase the value of what you provide, and there's maybe a conversation there to, you know, increase the amount of pay. But at the end of the day, many businesses dictate what that is worth. And you got to take personal responsibility. If it's not at that business as an employee, if you're sitting there and you're an employee and you're working 9 to 5 and you don't feel valued, it is not the business owner's responsibility to make you feel valued. Go somewhere where you believe you are valued.
Yeah.
You know, that is your personal responsibility. And now you might say, well, but I can't quit my job because of my financial responsibility. No, that's a scarcity mindset. You know, I mean, I was talking with somebody in the sense of like, well, I can't quit my job because, you know, I've got all these financial responsibilities. Well, how do you expect to find a different career?
Or more money at that point.
Well, I mean, this person, they were wanting to switch careers.
Okay. Yeah.
Like not in the career that they want to be in. And so it's like, well, you're never going to be able to be in the career that you desire to be in if you stay where you're at. So at some point you have to make that leap. And you got to have an abundance mindset, knowing that as you pursue that and you give value, that is a prerequisite. You have to give value. Then, you know, it'll work out. Now, it might not always work out the way you want it to, but it'll come about.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to try to stay on track a little bit, but you said give value, and like using that, and I'm going to use it in a broad sense of like, you know, if you want more money, if you want someone to give you something, you need to first be the one offering. I do it in real estate. You know, I see a bunch of, you know, very successful business owners, I'm sure you've seen it yourself, is when you just offer value, something worth paying for, money's just gone. Money follows value.
Yeah.
My favorite time in the morning is I get up super early when it's dark. I get up at 4 to head to the gym at 4:30 because I'm a little psychotic. But the big reason is my phone's not ringing. No one's texting me. It's just me and my mind. And that's what I love. And like, so that's my I call it my think time. And like, it's typically driving to the gym. I'm just trying to wake up. I'm just like, oh my God, just get to the gym. And in the gym and on the way back, I'm always just thinking about business and different things to scale and different things to do and all that stuff. And thinking about like the thing that you filled out and some of the stuff that you're saying, and value, you know, always comes up. And I've always thought, you know, money flows to value. And I was like, the perfect example is look at college. People, and one individual pays $40,000+ a year to go to college because they believe that it brings value, which it does. You know, I'm using this. I went to college. No hard feelings
too. So yeah,
but like that's a perfect example. And like as an adult, where I'm at now, constantly, paying money to some aspect. Either I paid money to be a real estate agent to get some type of knowledge. And where I'm kind of leading this is to something that you said in the forum is like rely more on knowledge rather than youth and energy. It's something along the lines of that.
So the statement is that I was having lunch with somebody, and it was back during the time where I was building that coaching business that became the largest in its niche. And we were in Dallas, Texas, and I was having lunch with this guy, and he says, hey, listen, there's going to come a point in time when you would rather leverage wisdom and knowledge over youth and energy. And I took out my journal right there, pulled it out on the lunch table, and just kind of wrote that down.
Yeah.
I was in my late 30s at the time. I knew that wasn't the time, but I knew that at some point in time, there's going to come that time where I'm going to rather leverage wisdom and knowledge over youth and energy. Now, I've shared that quote with many people. In one audience, I shared that quote, and there was a 21-year-old who said, wow, I'm going to go leverage wisdom and knowledge. And I was thinking to myself, you don't have it. That's not the time. And quite honestly, even if she did have wisdom and knowledge in your 20s, when that's the time to leverage youth and energy. I mean, your 30s is a time to leverage youth and energy. That's the time for you to gather wisdom, as much wisdom as you can. And, you know, I won't say my age, but I'm at the point now where I leverage wisdom and knowledge. You know, so on average, I maybe work 10 to 15 hours a week.
It's incredible.
Like, I don't have to work hard. I'm leveraging wisdom and knowledge. I own 2 businesses, you know, and both of them are very successful businesses. I'm leveraging wisdom and knowledge.
Because when in your 20s and 30s,
I learned the lessons.
You were a sponge. And I think
I'm still a sponge.
Always be a sponge.
It's a lifelong learner. So I'm still learning, but I'm just finding ways to apply it differently.
And I think that's really cool because, like, I mean, with Passion Seekers and this podcast, I was like, I have this idea. I love business. I'm obsessed with business. Like, it's kind of annoying. My wife gets annoyed because I always talk about it, but I just love it so much. And I was like, but if I go to, you know, a Fortune 500 company and says, hey, I want to tell you how to run your business, they're going to laugh me out the parking lot. And I was like, okay, don't be that naive. I haven't built a business. I haven't built anything. I was like, okay, what I do know is I love talking to people. I love talking about podcasts. So I was like, let me leverage people that have that wisdom. I have the energy. I would love to say that I work 10 to 15 hours a week. I work more. Sometimes it feels like 180 hours a week, but I have that energy where I can put in that. And like, not only am I bringing people to get connected with people that have that wisdom that can help them get to that next level, but I'm also taking this opportunity as being a sponge. And it's when I did the same thing when I was in real estate. I said, the first year, all I want to do is absorb knowledge. Like that way. And I will tell you, that was my saying, is I'm a sponge. I walked around, and I'm still walking around saying it. And I said, it was also my prayer. I said, I want things to happen in my first year where I can learn so much, because by year 2, I want to help. And let me say, my transactions have been literally this left and right. And I've been dealing with things that, you know, I go to some other agents, they're like, oh, I've never dealt with that. I'm like, oh, that's comforting. But like the fact that in my first year, I'm dealing with this, I'm absorbing. I always think about life as like things that happen to you. And this is like, you know, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I've always taken that. Like when things happen to me, it's not for me. And I firmly believe it's God's doing. It's, you know, thing. It's not for me personally. It's for the person behind me.
So if I heard you correctly, what you were saying is you don't believe it happens to you or for you. You said you don't believe it happens for you. It happens for the person behind you.
More than less. Yeah.
No, see, I believe that it happens for me.
Okay. Why?
And I also believe that things don't happen to me. It happens around me.
Explain that perspective.
Okay, so let me start with the things don't happen to me, they happen around me. Okay, the happen to me is more victim language. Like I had no control over it. It happened to me. Like I had no influence. It happened to me. I got in a car accident. It happened to me. No, I made a decision today to get in the car. Like when I go back, when I talk about personal responsibility, no, I'm taking 100% responsibility. I like that. So I've been in a car accident. My daughter just recently got in a car accident.
I heard about that.
So like, you know, there's this whole thing about who's at fault. Well, that's on the legal side of things. But at the end of the day, I made a decision to get in the car, to turn the car on, and to drive it. It didn't happen to me. The accidents I've been in didn't happen to me.
So it
happened for me.
I'm going to kind of push back a little bit because I'm curious on your response. So with that mentality of like, oh, I chose to turn on the car, but yes, you did. I agree. But you didn't know that you were going to get a wreck. What's your response to that?
Well, anytime you have an argument and there's a but in it, that's a bad argument.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I made a decision.
Yeah.
I'm taking full responsibility. I made a decision to get in the car. I wasn't forced.
Yeah.
The one accident I was in, I was on my way home from the gym. I chose to go to the gym. I have complete freedom. So that didn't happen to me. Instead, it happens for me so that I can learn from it. So that I can sympathize with others. So I can sympathize with my daughter who just got in an accident.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to get shook up. Her friends are telling her like, oh, isn't your dad upset? Like I have no emotional connection to that vehicle. My emotional connection is with my daughter. And so, no, I'm most concerned with her. It's a material thing. Yeah. Like I don't care about that. But it doesn't happen to me. It happens for me. I'll mention, for example, I know it's controversial, but we had a pandemic.
Yeah.
But my mantra all throughout the pandemic is that, the pandemic didn't happen to me. It happened around me. I get to choose whether or not I participate in the pandemic. Everybody was thinking like, this is happening to me.
Yeah.
I said, this is happening around me. I get to choose whether or not I participate in it. Now, businesses, every business, including mine, we all took a hit.
Yeah.
I couldn't get on an airplane and go do VIP days. Not that my business is all VIP days, but there was a period of time I couldn't get on an airplane.
Yeah.
Regardless of what people think about it, people are out there, they get upset, that, their airlines were requiring masks or whatever. Well, if you choose to fly, no, that's your choice. You have to choose to do business by the way that they are saying you have to do business.
Yeah.
And so regardless of what you believe about it, regardless of whatever I believe about it is I have to say, am I going to choose to do business that way? It didn't happen to me. It happened around me, happened for me. So now when I have the perspective that this is happening for me, I can also then say it's happening for the person behind me. Because now I can take the wisdom of which I've gained in that moment of this has happened for me and how I process it, whatever the circumstances, how I process that circumstance, I can then give that to the person behind me. I can't say this happened not for me, but for them, because I have to go through it. I have to experience it. I have to learn something.
Yeah.
I've got to gain the wisdom out of it. And so I say, no, it happened for me first so that I can share with others.
That's a really cool perspective.
It's a perspective of extreme 100% responsibility for self.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot to unpack because I definitely want to unpack it. And the reason I want to unpack it is because taking this back into the entrepreneur mindset, I think me personally, it goes back, we talked about abundance and we talked about all that stuff. And it was like, okay, if you want to make more, a lot of people look to their boss. Well, I just don't get paid. I do all this work and I don't get, well, there is some truth to that. I'm not going to deny. Some people get overlooked. I get it, but you are in control. You are in 100% control of how people treat you to an extent. Say that lightly, to an extent. But if you want to make more, 90% of people don't ask their boss if they can have a raise.
Definitely true. People don't ask, number one. They think it should be given. But again, if I'm going to take 100% responsibility, and I do not believe that the value that I'm giving is in direct correlation with the compensation that I'm making, then it's my responsibility. It's not eventually my boss's responsibility to come to me and just say, hey, can you do this? Now, I believe in being a good leader and being a good boss, that you pay a fair wage and pay what employees are worth in direct correlation to the value they provide. All of that. And it shouldn't have to be that they constantly come, but every now and then, it's your responsibility. It's always your responsibility, But I had a friend one time, he said that, married, I'm about to have, I think maybe first child, second child, whichever. And, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell my boss he needs to pay me more because now I'm having another child. I'm like, well, that's interesting because that wasn't your boss's decision.
Yeah.
It's not his responsibility to increase your salary just because you chose to have a child. That's not taking personal responsibility. Now you can go to them and say, hey, listen, my life circumstances are changing. How can I provide more value here so that I can get paid more?
Yeah.
Now that's taking personal responsibility. It's taking personal responsibility for, hey, I'm about to have a baby.
Yeah.
It's also taking personal responsibility for the value that I'm going to provide. And then I'm also asking, give me some benchmarks, give me something by which I can know that I'm able to get paid more.
Which I love that because that's actually when I was in construction and roofing and when I was working for a corporate company, that was how I approached things. Like, hear my coworkers always just go in and say, I demand this. And they would always get shut down. And I was like, well, obviously 8 people just went in and got a raise or asked for a raise, got shut down. I was like, not do what they're doing. And I was like, I'm a person, I always want to take responsibility. If I make a mistake, I will take responsibility. It may take me a few moments to get there, but I will come to my senses. So I was like, why don't I do that the same way when I ask for a raise? So I went in and say, what can I do to get X?
Yeah.
And if they were like, nothing, I'm like, okay, I've outgrown this company.
Yeah. It's your choice.
Yeah.
Now you have a choice of whether you want to stay there or a choice to go and find another company where you might be able to provide more value and get paid what you desire to get paid. But yeah, it's ultimately you and your choice, and it's your responsibility.
And I think that's what I love so much about entrepreneurship. Like real estate, it's its own business. This podcast, I'm creating it and building it as its own business. And then other things that I'm involved in, I want to treat it as my own. And one of the things I love is it keeps me, because I will naturally fall into a victim mindset. I know that about myself. I know I can catch myself with that. But why I like entrepreneurship so much is because, one, it holds me accountable. Because if real estate fails, I can't say, well, my boss didn't spend enough money on marketing, or I just got crappy crews, or I got X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, if real estate fails, dude, you dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Like I am the company.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, in real estate and as well, I mean, people will say, well, I didn't do well, but it was a down economy.
Yeah.
Or
which is what we're seeing.
The whole, I mean, we are, but there's still people buying homes.
Yeah.
So, and there's still people selling homes.
Yeah.
So like, you just gotta find them. No, you gotta work harder. But people will say, oh, well, I tried real estate for a while, but it didn't work out because, and then there's some other external circumstance that is beyond their control. That's why they didn't succeed in real estate.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
And I've noticed, like, I sleep better at night when I could admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Like when I know I lost a deal because I didn't ask the right questions, I'm like, God, that sucks. That really sucks. Like I missed out on getting paid, but I made the mistake. I learned from it. And one, if you don't learn from losing that amount of money, buddy, like you're probably not going to learn.
Yeah. You learn from it and then say, okay, what systems and processes can I put in place so that it doesn't happen again? So what script do I need to change? Maybe I need a script.
Yeah.
But like you find that really quick when you take, again, personal responsibility for saying, I got to do different.
I think we take the abundance mindset, we take the personal responsibility, we put them together, and it changes your perspective entirely.
Yeah.
Because like when I got into real estate, and it took, I've said this a bunch of times, but I hope it's not becoming repetitive, but it took me 1.5 years to become a realtor. I was in a comfy job. I was making a lot of money, but I hated it. I hated every minute of it. But I was like, but I'm making a lot of money. And like, what if? And it's like, okay. Then I looked at stats. I made that mistake. And I looked at stats. There's 9,000 realtors in the Tri-County area. I think that was reported in 2023. And I was like, 9,000 realtors in Charleston County. I was like, wow, yikes. And then the success rate for realtors first year is 1%. 1% of agents succeed within their first year. 99% of realtors will quit in their first year. I was like, holy crap. And that's why it took me 1.5 years. And then it came to a point where I was like, you know what? Put your big boy pants on. Figure out what the 1% does.
Yeah.
And if I end up making the 99% mistake, okay, well, I live with the mindset of I cannot lose. I will not lose. I am the 1%. And like, that was not coming from an arrogance place, but that's saying like, I have one plan. I have one objective, and it's easy.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, but like, it is easy. You just have to discipline yourself and then have that abundance mindset and personal responsibility.
Abandon average.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about the average.
Yeah.
So the average real estate agent, doesn't succeed in their first year. So abandon average. So you just say most people are extremely okay with being average. They play the averages. But if the average isn't growing and the average isn't, succeeding, then many times if you just look at the average and do the opposite, you'll succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's wisdom in that.
Yeah.
That many times if you just look at what the average person does and you do the opposite, you'll succeed. So the average person, spends whatever amount of time on social media. Well, if you do the opposite of that, you'll succeed.
There's so
so like all you have to do if you're looking to break out of average, just do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So what does the average real estate agent do? Do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned some of the stats there about 9,000 real estate agents in Tri-County area. The one thing that you probably didn't look at is how many homes are in the Tri-County area.
Yeah.
And then like how many people are moving in and out of the Tri-County area every month. And like now you start looking at that number in context. Like, and you're not all fighting for the same people.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, out of all the homes in the Tri-County area, there's 9,000. Like, there's not enough agents.
Yeah, honestly.
Because especially in the Tri-County area, like how many are moving in and out on a consistent basis?
It's ridiculous.
So, no, there's plenty.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the average isn't making known their services.
Yeah.
The average is marketing just the way everybody else markets it and markets their business. I put a sign on my car, or I change my profile on Facebook, and maybe I make some Facebook posts, and people will just come to me and they'll want me to buy and sell their home.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't work that way.
No.
So you got to know who you're best able to sell and so forth. And that gets into a different conversation there. But you look at what the average is doing and just do the opposite, and you'll succeed.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I've always, I'm an overachiever. I know that about myself. If I walk into a room, I'm like, okay, how can I be the best? And like, sometimes it's ridiculous and I know it. And my wife hits me and says, knock it off. And I'm like, okay. But like other times, like in every single job, like roofing, I hated roofing. I'm just going to flat out say it. I hated it. But even though I hated it, for some reason, I had a drive to be the best roofer and the best project manager and the best roofing sales. I hated roofing sales. You talk about aggressive sales, like door-to-door knocking, like saying, you need a roof and I'm the best roofer. John Doe who comes down, he's an off. Like, it's aggressive. I hated every minute of it. But I had a drive to be the best. I guess that can be a prideful way as well. But I was always looking at what other people were doing, and I said, I'm just going to do the opposite. And I did it when I joined the team. I looked at what everybody was doing, and then I found someone that was doing it really well, and I was like, I'm just going to copy that dude.
Yeah.
Because getting into real estate, like being in construction for 8 years and then going over to real estate, you're like, oh my God, this is a whole new world.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I need to find the best people and just mimic it.
And that brings it into my world, which is find a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, find somebody who has a vested interest in you succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
A good coach is vested in your success. Like they genuinely want you to succeed. And they're not threatened by that success. They want that to happen. A good coach looks at your success, and it's one of the things I look at is like I get to succeed through them.
Mm-hmm.
So I shared with you, that one of the things I get to do in working with so many coaches and consultants and coaching businesses in all different niches is I get to lay my head down at night knowing that vicariously through all my clients, I'm changing lives.
Mm-hmm.
So like there are people right now who own childcare businesses.
Mm-hmm.
and they're impacting those children right now as we speak. And I'm vicariously, even as we're speaking right now, because of my work with that coaching organization who coaches those business owners to get more families and to serve more kids, I am right now serving more kids.
Mm-hmm. Which
it happens. It's vicarious.
Yeah.
I've helped them get more clients in their business. Those clients are business owners who are then impacting kids. And so I get to lay my head down at night. I get to lay my head down at night with knowing that podiatrists who, help people experience less pain from heel and foot pain and are able to walk again. Like, I'm able to know that, hey, vicariously through my client, I'm able to have a direct impact of people experiencing healing in their feet and ankles. Service businesses, creating, like all of it, like every single one of my clients. So I get to lay my head down at night knowing that.
And I'm going to relate this. I've been talking a lot about abundance mindset because I think it's so vital, so vital to, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in a company, whatever you're doing, abundance mindset. I'm a firm believer. And I say this from a person that wasn't abundant mindset. I would look at a beach house and say, I will never get that because I wasn't gifted. I wasn't born into it. And I think that's just wholly false. And I think most of Americans feed off jealousy. They see someone else succeeding and get mad. And I've dealt with it in, my past. I've had it put on me. I've been jealous, and it all stems from the closed fist analogy, is because you're able to scale a business, and have them make multi-million dollars in a year, and also help numerous of people be on stages and speak and all that stuff. And I can sit here and say confidently, I guarantee you don't feel jealous, because based off what you just said. And two, you have an abundance mindset. Abundant mindset is typically not going to be jealous, because it's like, okay, well, they know that they can achieve it somehow. In your case, it's like, you're seeing it from the perspective, and like you said, you're living vicariously through them.
Yeah.
And I think it's oh God, I think it's so cool. It's so vital.
Yeah. Well, again, their success becomes my success.
Yeah.
So one of my clients exited his coaching business for service businesses at 50 million plus.
Ooh.
Was able to exit. I look at that as my success.
Yeah.
Like, I even said it. One of my clients was able to exit his business and sell his business for over $50 million.
Yeah, because obviously you did a good job.
I had a hand in that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't claim ownership of it, but I played a small role in it to help create that, and I celebrate his success in that. Some people would say, well, but I wish it was mine, or I wish I could do that for me, or whatever. But like when you have an abundance mindset, it's like, no, I get to impact. Right now we're impacting people who are listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
We'll never know it.
Mm-hmm.
But vicariously, they'll take, hopefully quite a few things from our time together, and they'll go and apply that. And so, I'm able to know that vicariously right now, people are out there listening to us and knowing that they're going to make some sort of adjustments in their mindset, start abundance thinking or whichever, but like there's going to be an impact there. And I'm okay with never knowing it.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the life of an entrepreneur or someone that wants to be in this lifestyle, is like, you have to be okay sometimes working for free by creating value. Granted, we talked about it a little bit before, the podcast. If you work for free, you can't feed into your passion.
Yeah.
You can't, or, like this podcast, I absolutely love it. And like right now, I'm not getting paid to do this. There's nothing that's paying me. But like, if I want to continue to do this, I need to grow it into something where I can get paid to do it, so I can feel this is my passion.
Yeah. My mantra on that, and it actually comes from a book title by Harvey McKay.
Uh-huh.
So it's an older book, but the title is Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty.
Which I love that.
So you got to dig your well before you're thirsty. Like, most people start looking when they're thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need a new job. Like I've overextended myself. Like, the amount of debt that, people go into and everything, like they get overextended.
Yeah.
And now they're overextended to where they're thirsty. Well, dig your well before you're thirsty. So, in starting a business, it's like, yeah, sometimes you have to do some things for free because you're digging your well. Sometimes you have to just cultivate friendships and relationships. I mean, part of being a real estate agent is that, you're leveraging your sphere of influence now, and you're being out in front of your sphere of influence so that when the time comes and they're ready to, sell or buy, that they choose you over every other agent. Well, right now, being out there putting yourself out there in front of your sphere of influence, you're digging your well before you're thirsty.
Yeah.
Now, most people start by saying, I'm thirsty now, so let me go see what leads I can generate by doing a Facebook Live. No, you got to dig your well before you're thirsty. You got to lay that foundation. Which
in turn turns into that whole sales guy where you're sitting there and you say, hey, this is my price. And he says, oh, well, that's a little higher. Oh, whoa, wait. I'll actually take $1,000 off.
Yeah.
If you dug it before you're thirsty and you're like, okay, I'm just building out something, then that person that doesn't want your service and this is what I charge.
Yeah. Well, so I'll say this though. So in the beginning of the business, because I was digging the well and I had not fully refined my VIP day process. My very first VIP day I sold for, it's not even a quarter. I can't do the percentages in front of, but I sold for a very small amount for 2 days. And I thought like, okay, because it's my first one, like I need this so that number one, I could provide value. And that's why I did 2 days, is because I wanted to make sure I provide the value.
Yeah.
And so I offered 2 days. I got done with that 2-day process. I learned from it. It made me go back and refine my process for a VIP day to where I could narrow it down for one and deliver just as much value. And then I narrowed it down to one. I, kept my price the same and then said, okay, now that I've done that successfully, I can go up on my price. And so then I went up on my price and I've gone up on my price again. But it was because I dug the well first that I said, let me go ahead and let me plant some seeds. I've got to learn. I've got to get used to selling it. I got to get used to fulfilling on it. And I need to make sure the value I provide for it far outweighs investment that they make. So the VIP days now that I do are literally creating 7 figures for businesses. So
because you had that experience.
Because I had that experience, because I refined the process over time. And because of that, it then allowed me to increase what I charge for a VIP day.
Which I think I'm going to say this because I think it's a great disclaimer, is like, we're saying all this, be confident on your price, be confident on that. But at the same time, if you don't have, like, if I said, hey, listen, at this stage, like, hey, if you like passion seekers, you don't know what it is, but you're going to pay me $1,000 and I'm going to coach you, that would be absurd. Yeah, that would be absolutely absurd. But if I've dug a well, I took the time to dig a well, which is what I'm doing with this podcast, and then eventually leading up either into that coaching program or into that, mastermind program or something, then it's like, I'm not going to walk out the gate saying, I'm going to charge you $20,000 to do this. It's going to be a lot cheaper than, John Doe or any of these other big names, because I don't have experience. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I have to get this. And it's like, well, every chance you get, if you go in there with the mindset of this is a learning experience rather than this is a paycheck, your perspective is going to change. You're not going to be worried about the money. You're going to be focused on, okay, how can I learn so much and learn from my mistakes, and then also take that and apply it to my next person.
Yeah.
And then that's how you increase your profit.
Yeah. And at the same time, you want to know that and have the confidence that the value you're providing is in direct correlation. So in the beginning, yes, I'd built the largest coaching organization in its niche, but for me to then go out and coach others to do that, I had to know that, hey, yes, these systems and processes that I used over here are transferable and can do it. And, I gave a lot of coaching for free. I went to a lot of, friends and worked on their businesses with them for free. And with no expectation. Like a lot of people, like with free, they still want to have some expectation, but like, no, there's no expectation on this.
Yeah.
And you don't tell them necessarily, but like, I'm making sure that this is working.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, okay, yes, and it works, and it's proven, and it's not just proven in one niche, it's now proven in multiple niches, multiple different types of coaches, and the value is there.
Yeah, it's reassurance. And I mean, you know, anytime you're starting your own business, you have to do it. Like with real estate, I'm not going to come out the gate and pick up a lead that wants to go look at a house and be like, hey, listen, I'm not going to show you a house until you sign buyer agency and do X, Y, and Z. Like, dude, I don't even know I've never shown a house. So like, I'm definitely going to pick my butt up and walk over there and show it to them for free. And if they don't buy with me, it's like, okay, then you analyze the situation. And I think a lot of people, I see it in realtors, I see it in, you know, people that are starting their business and everything. They just don't take that into account. But a lot of people are not looking at the big picture. And I think that's a huge misguidance. They're just looking for the paycheck. And, you know, I think the big thing that you said that I like is not going in there with expectations. You don't go in there with expectations. Let me reframe and might push back, but go in with expectations, but the expectation to learn something for your next deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's the expectation to give.
Yeah. So we are, I don't want to end, but it's been so good. So we're going to wrap up a little bit. And one of the things as I wrap up, what I like to do is kind of your advice to, you know, someone, if you had to speak to yourself 20 something years ago, or when you were just starting out, and, you know, when all the doubts, the fears, and all that stuff came at play, that's the context of who we're speaking to today. What would you say to someone, they're trying to get started and they don't know where to start, and I think their coaching is so valuable. Where can they find that? And how would you recommend them find that?
So if I understand it correctly, the question is how do you find a coach?
Yeah.
Somebody's looking for a coach. How do you find them? Number one, you want to find a coach who's done what you desire to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many quote certification organizations out there that will certify people as a coach, but they haven't done anything. Like, they're just certified.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people jokingly that people who have all these certifications as a coach don't make good clients for me because they've not done what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now some of them may have.
Yeah.
And not to knock, you know, certifications or what, but like, look for somebody who's done what you desire to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's first. And then second, look for someone who has successfully coached others to do that same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one thing for, you know, you to like coach or find a coach who's done it for themselves, but have they been able to successfully coach others to do it? And that's got to be another criteria. Like, they've got to have actively. Now, you may be the first client that they get. Know that going in.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I mean, I had my first clients. You know, I had mentioned about my first VIP day.
Yeah.
You know, now, like, I had that, but I had a ton of experience backing me up. You know, that I built a coaching organization. Mm-hmm. They wanted to learn from me about how I did that.
Yeah.
And so I was able to share that. Wasn't able to go in there and tell them, this is how I think. I was able to say, this is how we did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so was able to go and then, you know, as well, you know, offer that same advice to others. The success built.
Yeah.
You know, so was able to do it myself, was able to coach others on how to do it. So you want to look for those characteristics, you know. And then lastly, I would say it's got to be somebody that you connect with.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's got to be this, you enjoy being on Zoom or whatever it is when you're coached by them. I tell, you know, we talked a little bit during our time together that, you know, I get to choose who I do business with. I tell my wife, you know, that the moment I start to not look forward to a client meeting that I've got is the moment that I begin to consider offloading them.
Mm.
Like, if I'm not looking forward to that Zoom call with that particular client, it's not good for either one of us.
Yeah.
And so, like, on the recipient side of that, you want that.
Mm-hmm.
You want that your coach is eagerly looking forward to being with you.
Yeah.
And not out of obligation because that you paid them, but because they have value to bring to you. And so I owe it to my clients to eagerly look forward to my conversations with them. And the moment I begin to not is the moment that I should start considering how I offboard them, and part ways with them.
Yeah.
And so you want that as well.
And that's not personal. That's just, and that's,
Well, sometimes it is personal. It's okay.
Sometimes
I mean,
it is. But to me, that's good business. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm going to leave with this. But like, there's a lot of companies out here that can't pass that revenue threshold because they're holding on to clients that are the ones that are dragging them down.
Yeah.
And if they were they're so scared to let go of that income that they're getting from that one client, that it's one, ruining their reputation possibly, and also not giving them the creative ability to focus on their clients they enjoy.
Yeah. I had a membership in this current business. I had a membership that, was so many dollars a month. I had a number of people in it.
Mm-hmm.
I shut it down. Didn't require much from me. They weren't showing up for the calls. It was people that, quite honestly, weren't right fit.
Mm-hmm.
They were more, nothing against them, but they were more on the level of underperforming. And I said, instead of me just receiving this recurring revenue, I'm just going to shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
So that I can focus in on more right fit clients.
Yeah.
And you do have to have the ability to be able to say no to wrong fit clients and be able to say yes to right fit clients. And so when you are looking for a coach, you want to know who is their right fit client, and do you match that? And if you don't match that, that's fine. Go find some other coach.
Yeah.
That you do, because they may say yes to you when they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And if you're not right fit, then you owe it to yourself to find somebody of whom you are right fit.
Yeah.
So that would be my encouragement. Is find somebody who's been successful in what it has the success that you want to have. Find somebody who's now coached that same success to others and has helped them be successful. And then somebody of whom you desire to connect with and that you just like on a personal level.
It's just really good. I really like that.